J-Magin JHF. During my time in Scientology, I saw many high-level public on the top of the bloody bridge die of cancer or something like that. It gave me the idea that cause over life was just a fake promise. How did you justify or view those deaths as a Sea Org member when you were in? For those of you who don't know, when people progress through to the highest levels of Scientology's auditing or counseling, way past the Xenu story and up to the higher levels through OT7, they're supposed to achieve a state called cause over life, which sounds pretty amazing and pretty wild, and is one of the ultimate goals of Scientology, is to be in a position where you are able to affect life, your life, the life around you. Hubbard defines cause as being able to be at the source point of something, or being able to control things, being able to start, change, stop them, things like that. And so cause over life is a pretty special place to be. And if only Scientology really offered that. So when people in Scientology who had achieved these high levels, surprise, still got cancer, still got sick, still had problems, still had cheated on their spouses, still got into car accidents, this sort of thing, still wore glasses. All the things that you would, if you were cause over life, what would you do? What could you do? What would you be expected to be able to do? What would you think, you'd be able to do? I mean, kind of a lot of things, right? Certainly not get cancer, certainly not get sick, certainly not have to deal with, problems with your eyes. But when you're in Scientology and you see people who have, supposedly achieved these states, and yet they still have this kind of thing going on, the cognitive dissonance, bzzz, starts rattling around in your head. And you have to come up with some reason why this person would have had that bad thing happen to them, or still have a bad chronic physical condition or something like that. And the way this would generally work would be, generally speaking, there were lots of reasons that people could come up with, but it generally came down to two reasons, okay? One of them has to do with, and both of them are basically on the person. It's a blame the victim sort of approach. It's not Scientology's fault, ever, that the person didn't achieve that state or is not showing that they've achieved that state. It's on the person. And the reason why is either one, the person is what we would call out ethics, or PTS, a potential trouble source, meaning they have come in contact with or had re-stimulated an earlier contact with a suppressive person, okay? There's some bad guy in their life, some suppressive person, or SP, who is, suppressing them, is on them. And the only reason in Scientology that you can become PTS, or a potential trouble source, in other words, an SP comes along and you go to the effect of them, it's called, or go under their power, or somehow are influenced by them. The only reason that can happen is because you yourself have gone out ethics, okay? Now, going out ethics means you're doing something wrong in your life. You're committing overts, you're committing bad deeds, right? Overts are bad deeds. All this Scientology terminology that I'm having to dredge up here. Basically, it's your fault, okay? And it's your fault because you are, stealing from the cookie jar, you're cheating on your wife, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Maybe it's not even something extreme. Maybe it's just something you're not doing as good a job at work as you know you should be, or you're slacking off when you should be working for Scientology. That can be out ethics, right? You're not giving all the money that you should be giving to Scientology. Believe me, that could definitely be considered out ethics in Scientology. But whatever the thing is, when I or other Sea Org members or other Scientologists would look at an OT in Scientology and see that they had some non-optimum situation going on, we could think to ourselves, oh, well, they must, especially if they die of cancer or something, or gets chronically ill or something like that. We just shrug it off. We just go, oh, they're just PTS. They're out ethics. And it's that labeling thing. You throw a label on it, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. Oh, it's their fault. See, it's their responsibility. So there's that reason. Okay. The other reason is what's all the fashion in Scientology, and has been for quite a few years now, is that their earlier steps, okay, if this is OT, if this is the high level here, then the earlier steps they did before, something got missed. Something was wrong. Something didn't get done the way it was supposed to. And Miscavige has been throwing this out as the saving grace for all these OTs who aren't really OT. Is he says, oh, well, there's a very easy explanation for that. You didn't achieve the full gains of the earlier levels that you did, and you thought you'd finished, and we said you'd finished it, but we found this other stuff, and it turns out, yeah, it wasn't written right. It's somebody messed it up, whatever the bullshit explanation that Miscavige gives as to why these earlier levels were not completed to full end result. It gives the OTs and everybody in Scientology a reasonable, to them, justification for why OTs aren't really OT, why they don't act OT, why they don't look OT, why they have problems, why they die of cancer, why they commit suicide, why all these horrible, awful things happen to OTs that shouldn't happen because they're supposed to be these superhuman people. And Scientologists just suck this stuff up, and I did too, back when I was in Scientology, because here's the thing. Scientologists desperately want Scientology to be true. And the more you do Scientology, the longer you're in it, the more invested you are in that, and the more you need it to be true. And the harder the fall is when you find out it's not. So people resist that fall. They resist finding that out. And our minds work in such a way that it's easy for us to continue to justify things that don't really make any damn sense. And I've talked about that at length. It's called confirmation bias. And we all do it. All of us do it in all parts of our lives. But Scientologists are very, very good at doing it with Scientology and with L. Ron Hubbard and whatever David Miscavige says, which is one reason why David Miscavige is continuing to be in power in Scientology, is because he puts on a good show. And he gives very reasonable sounding explanations to Scientologists. It sounds reasonable to them. It doesn't sound reasonable to us when you're outside of Scientology, but when you're in the bubble world, his speeches sound awesome. And you want to believe so badly that you'll take anything. They're grasping at straws. And at this point, it really is grasping at straws. So that's how we did that.